So anything that we should be talking about before we look at beeps?
Um, no, I don't think so. Um, I was wondering, I was thinking the other day that if the beeper would keep working if it needs new batteries, but I don't think it does it? Because
No,
it's,
the batteries go for a long time.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, nothing.
Okay. So this is going to be day 5.
Five, yeah.
Okay. And I see Cody has joined us, so I think I'm ready.
Hi, Cody.
Good afternoon. I forget what the
Afternoon.
time difference. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a Murphy's Law running on my end. Everything getting set up took longer than I thought, so thanks for being patient.
We are ready.
Okay, so beep one. I was in a coffee shop and I was filling out this form online, and the beep went off as I was thinking about my flat's heating and keeping my cats warm. And as I was thinking that, there was an image in my head of my cats in the corridor of my flat. Because the form I was filling out was, just for some background, was for a cat sitter, and the question was about special requests, and I was thinking about the heating needs to be on for them sometimes because it gets really cold. So um, I was when the beep went off, I was thinking about my cats in the flat, but the thinking was an image of them in the corridor at night.
And what exactly do you see?
Well, I saw, so my corridor, but it was nighttime. There was a bit of light from, like, I think it looked like moonlight, and the cats were just sitting in the corridor.
More than one cat?
Yeah, just both cats just sitting in the corridor.
Okay. And is this in color or black and white or motion or?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I'm not 100% sure about that. Uh, I feel like it was in color, but it wasn't like a bright color. It wasn't like the colors were that prominent.
Sort
Um,
of nighttime black and white, except it's really in color, but there's no color to be seen, something like that.
yeah, yeah, something like that.
Okay. And is there at the moment of this beep any kind of a thought process about cat sitters or heat or whatever, or is it at this moment, as far as my experience is concerned, I'm just seeing the cats?
Yeah, I was just seeing the cats. Um, I was I was sort of not what I mean. The experience was just seeing the cats in the corridor at night. Uh, I was thinking they were cold as well because I'm not sure. This might have come a little bit after the moment of the beep, to be honest, um, because basically had an image in my head of the cats being in the flat without me in the middle of the night being cold. Um,
Okay.
because I'm trying to arrange this sitter because we're going away, and I was just worried that they would be, yeah, cold.
Okay.
Um,
So I see cats in the hallway. Maybe I see cold cats in the hallway, and that's sort of hard to tell whether that's right at the beep. Is that right on?
yeah, yeah. The worry about them being cold, I'm not sure that was really at the moment of the beep. The moment of the beep was more the imagery.
Okay. Then I think I'm good.
You too.
Number 2.
So number two was I was in my flat and I could hear what sounded like a loud leaf blower outside. And so I went over to the window to try and see what it was. And the beep went off as I was looking out the window to the left, trying to see it, but I couldn't see it.
And so at the moment of the beep, what, if anything, was in your experience?
I could see my neighbor's garden and the trees that kind of block block the view of their garden. I could see like a few other like houses around. Uh, yeah, that's all I could see, and I could hear what sounded like a very loud leaf blower. Um, yeah, but that was basically everything in my experience at the time.
And so is there any way to say what is sort of what's most prominent or most central to my experience at the moment? Like, is this mostly about the leaf blower, hearing and or seeing it,
Um,
or the seeing just looking out my window, or
um, there was a strong sense of kind of searching. I was trying to see what it was. Um, it wasn't annoying me, or there wasn't really an emotional aspect to it. But I wanted to know what it was because it was really loud. Um, so I was just staring with the intention of trying to see it, and I couldn't see it. Um, so there was an
So,
intent there.
so can I go back to what you said? You said you were looking and you could see the trees and you could see the houses.
Mm.
Does that mean I was seeing those things, or does that mean I wasn't really seeing them? I was really waiting to see the leaf blower, which I wasn't seeing, and so there was really nothing in my experience at the moment. Nothing visual in my experience.
So I could see the trees blocking the garden and some of
Could
the
and could see, as in I did see the trees.
yeah, as in I did see, yeah.
Okay, that's what I
So
wanted to know.
I did see that. Um, but I was almost trying to it was like I was trying to focus or search beyond that because whatever it was going on behind those trees. So I was kind of trying to look through them.
and is my trying to look through them is that a visual thing, a seeing thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Kind of, but not totally. I feel like there was because I could hear because what I was curious about I could hear. Um, there was like yeah, the search wasn't like a totally visual search, if that makes sense. I wasn't actively looking through the trees to. There was something about the fact that it was auditory, which made the search feel a bit different in some way, as opposed to like looking for something. I was sort of um, I don't know, like I was trying to find something instead of looking at something, if that makes sense. There was like it felt qualitatively different to be like trying to find something as opposed to looking through the trees.
I'm hearing through the trees as well as looking through the trees.
Yeah.
Right.
And and you said you were the you were hearing the leaf blower, and that was there. And you had said something about it was very loud. It's not just a low leaf blower or something. Could you say more about how that was in your experience?
So that was just it was like it was an all-encompassing sound. It sounded like it was going on all around me. It sounded like um it sounded like a sort of like almost like a I don't know like an incredibly loud lawnmower, but I was pretty sure it wasn't a lawnmower because I don't think they have grass next door. And but anyway, it didn't it didn't. I thought it was a leaf blower because I've heard leaf blowers before, and I know that they're quite loud. So I thought it was that, but the sound itself, the experience of the sound was just a very. It was just all encompassing. It was everywhere. It was so loud that it almost didn't. I think that's why I was struggling to find it, because it was so loud that it was hard to pinpoint actually exactly where it was. It seemed like it was coming from everywhere, even though I could still tell that it was coming from the neighbor's garden beyond the trees. But the sound itself was so loud that it was all around.
And so at the moment of the beep, is it that I hear a leaf blower that is loud and it's hard to pinpoint or something, or is it just I hear this noise?
It's more, I suppose I think it was both. The sound of the leaf blower was very prominent because it was so loud and so all encompassing. But me looking like at the trees and the neighbor's garden, me trying to find it, that was also quite a prominent feature.
That's it. Sounds good to me.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
So beep number 3, I want to skip if that's okay.
Okay.
So beep number 4, so I was out with my partner and we were walking down this narrow street looking for an office, and she said, "This is charming," about the street, and the beep went off as I was thinking about the word charming and the fact that she had just said that, and I was thinking about that and looking at the street at the same time, and kind of agreeing, but without really being aware. Like it didn't really feel like a really conscious thing. I just like I agreed with what she'd said in my head without consciously saying it to myself, if that makes any sense. I was sort of looking at the street kind of anew because I was thinking about the word charming and looking at it and thinking, oh yeah, she's right. Like it is quite charming.
So, so at the moment of the beep, what's in your experience?
In the experience at the time, just a very narrow street. So there are like small little houses and offices on either side. It's very narrow. It's almost like the really narrow cobbled streets you see, but it's not. There wasn't any cobbled stone, but it was just a very narrow, very old London street, and I could see that. Not much else because it was so narrow and enclosed, you couldn't even see much of the sky. So I could just see that while I was thinking, yeah, it's charming because of what my partner just said.
Okay. And how is that thinking? How are you experiencing that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's really hard to answer because I wasn't, like I said, it wasn't really a conscious thing. Kind of, it was more of a feeling. It was like I was having a positive feeling towards the street because of what she said, and I was that positive feeling was like an agreement with her, I suppose. But yeah, it's difficult to describe that. I mean, I was thinking afterwards, for what it's worth, that maybe there was unsymbolized thinking going on, but I can't tell. I don't know.
So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, is this experience thinking, at least the thinky portion of it, is this about charming, or is this about the street, or is this about like agreeing or something like that?
Mm.
Or is
Um,
it all three or something
it was
else?
kind of all three, to be honest. It was I was looking at the streets, and I was thinking that what she'd said about it being charming was true, but that manifested itself as a kind of as just a feeling, like a positive feeling towards what I was looking at. Um, but it's really hard to describe because it was I can't be quite sure if it was like a feeling or a cognitive thing or if it was neither or maybe a bit of both. Um,
So in your opening salvo, you said you seemed to focus that you were thinking about the word charming. We haven't yet talked about that.
yeah. So that word that was in the that word was kind of it was kind of hanging in the experience. Like it was like as I was looking at it and thinking and feeling sort of more positively towards it, I was thinking very briefly about the word charming, but I don't know if that was like I didn't picture that in my head. Um, but there was something about the word charming that kind of stuck with me just for a moment. Um,
And in what way did it stick with you?
um, it was sort of like I just thought about it as in it's strange because she'd said it and it was almost like I could hear it again in my head, kind of like an echo, but without actually hearing it or seeing the word charming in my head. Um,
In a voice?
well, it was just no, it wasn't a voice or even an image. It was just there, like the word. It was just like it's almost like she said the word. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like she'd said the word, but I hadn't quite registered it, maybe, and then there was a delay and I was registering it. I don't know if it was that or if I was just thinking about it again, but it wasn't, yeah, I don't know. It's really, again, this is why I think it might be unsymbolized thinking in a way because I couldn't really, um, it didn't present itself to me in any way that I can really describe. I was just thinking about it.
And that thinking about is about the word. I'm somehow continuing to encounter or encountering anew or whatever,
Yeah.
focusing on the word charming.
Yeah. And I don't know if I don't actually know if it's the word itself or the meaning of the word or both. Um, like when I thought about it, I couldn't quite tell if the experience was me sort of thinking of the meaning of the word, and therefore agreeing and having that positive outlook, or if I was thinking more about the word itself, um, and something strange about the word itself.
So
Um,
I'm gathering that there's something about the word itself that is present,
yeah,
the word charming, that is sort of separable from the street. Yeah, the street is charming, that's true. But it's not that I'm just noticing the charmingness of the street. I am somehow involved with the word charming as well as the charmingness of the street as well as agreeing with my partner.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And yet it's difficult to say how how the word is present.
Yeah, it's really interesting because makes me realize that you kind of in so many experiences, there are things that you sort of divide up and partition up that you don't really realize you're doing or you're not even aware of when you're not studying experience in this way. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
I think it is interesting. And I think it's different from one person to the next. I think we've had some beeps before. I'd have to go back and look that are about words. You have an interest in words. Not everybody does. And,
Yeah, and it's interesting because like the past beeps, I've noticed that often I can see the word, or like it appears in some way, like the word light against a plank of wood, but this one didn't really appear. Um, as you said, it was kind of just divided between the scene and what I was thinking about. And it's interesting as well because I still can't quite figure out if it's the meaning of the word or if it's just the word itself charming. And if that had any influence on what I was seeing. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah. But and I think the word and the meaning from the word, a word and the meaning of a word are not necessarily easily separable. Sometimes they're very easily separable. Like I'm interested in the sound of the word, I don't really care what it means. The word and the meaning are sometimes separable, but sometimes not.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, and I read this thing the other day about if you think about a word over and over and over and over again, eventually it loses its meaning. And I was thinking like that's kind of true in a way if you think about words too much. But then I don't know why I saw that and I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. But then when I've thought about words in past beeps, it's not that I've just been thinking about them over and over again. So it's it's interesting that I suppose what I'm trying to say is it's interesting in the way that sometimes I think about the word and I'm not quite sure if I'm thinking about, as you said, what it means or the word itself, and I can think about that without having to repeat it over and over again in my head. Like it's strange just on its own.
Yeah. Well, when we're done with sampling, we'll have to accumulate all the words together, all the samples that had to do with words together, and then we might be able to say something. Well, this is sort of a window into how Joe deals with words, and then we can compare that to other people, for example. So shall we move on to beep number 4?
Yeah.
5, I guess we're calling it beep number 5.
Yeah, it's 5. So beep number 5 was so I was looking at a watch on my laptop, and my partner likes watches and thinks I should get one. And I was looking at a watch, and I was trying to decide if I should get the one with the blue face or the cream face, and I couldn't decide. And the beep went off as I was staring at both watch faces, but I was looking at both of them, and I was just thinking they were both quite nice, and I couldn't really decide.
And in your experience is what?
My experience was a navy blue watch face next to a cream watch face. It's the same watch, but they just had different faces. And my experience was me looking, at the one with the blue, then at the cream, then at the blue, and I was just jumping back and forth, trying to figure out if one was nicer than the other, but I just thought they were both really nice.
And is this just I see this watch and I see that watch and I see this watch and I see that watch, and the beep catches me somewhere in there, and sooner or later I'll have figured out which one I like better? Or is this some kind of an analytical thing? Well, this has this feature, this has that feature.
No, it went off as I was just scanning between them and trying to figure out which one was nicer, but not really getting anywhere with that decision. Just thinking like there was both the thinking they were both nice and also the thinking of that I couldn't decide which was nicer.
And are those thoughts present in your experience at the moment of the beep, or is that sort of context? I can say sort of in general they're both nice, and I'm not deciding, haven't decided.
I feel like it was kind of context. It wasn't like I had that moment of realization at the moment of the beep. That thought was kind of like an ongoing thing. But the beep went off as I was still just scanning between them, and I had that thinking just going on in the background.
Okay. And in the alternating back and forth, is it from this watch to that watch, or is it from this blue to that cream? So are we alternating between watch, 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 or blue, cream, blue, cream, blue, cream?
It was the blue, cream. Because I knew I liked the watch. I was just trying to figure out the color. So it was I was very much focused on the colors. The image was even zoomed in, so I could see the colors they were quite prominent and large on either side of the screen.
So it's more about alternating between blue and cream than it is alternating between watch that is blue, watch that is cream.
That's a really good question. I feel like it was more the colors, but there was still, I'd say, if we were going to put a number on it, I'd say there was at least 20 to 30% watch as well, because I was looking at it in context against the rest of the watch.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Me too.
Yeah, the last beep, I'd also like to skip, if that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are all the beeps I got today.
Well, we ought to think about where we are here. We contracted with, basically we're going to do this 3 or more times, and we've done it 3 or more times. Do we want to do it one more time, or do we want to more than that? So basically I'm asking Joe, what are your interests in?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out today actually, because I definitely feel like I've done enough to get a fairly good grasp of the technique, and I feel like I definitely feel more adept at performing DES. Like I think I think I'm quite good at putting away the bracketing the presuppositions and not trying to explain things. But maybe I think it might be worth doing it one more time.
Okay.
If you guys are okay with that. And then maybe after that I'll go away with everything I've got, and I've already made like a pretty good start on the chapter. And then maybe in like a few months after that we can like catch up. I can like send you guys the chapter, and we can maybe like decide at that point if maybe we could do more DES, although it might not be necessary. But
all that sounds good to me.
Okay.
So should we go for a week from today?
Cool. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So does that sound good with you, Russ? Like doing it one more time again, and then just catching up in a few months?
Yes, I do think that does sound good to me. I agree with your characterization of your apprehension and skill or whatever of the process. I do think that you've done it enough. I think that you know pretty much what's going on, and one more time we'll seal that. And
yeah, so I mean it's so interesting because I remember at the beginning of this you said that it's going to take you a few times, and then when I've looked back at our beeps, the first couple of beeps. I can see like a lot of the dialogue is like, you're picking me up on something like, that's your presuppositions, and I particularly the one in the tube where I was thinking, I said about the rattling and the rumbling, and you were saying, was that your experience, or was your experience the black mark and the word light? And it was the black mark and the word light. And you said at the time, that's a lot more interesting. And I was thinking, oh yeah, that is a lot more interesting. and people don't think about that because they don't think about their experiences in the right way, I suppose. So
There is something. There is something intrinsically, I think it is, intrinsically avoidable about what turns out to be the most interesting. And I think we had a beep today where I think is an application of that sort of rule, and that's the beep about the word charming. That was, I think, the central part of your experience. It was about the word, and yet the initial conversation about that sort of avoided that. You said it was about the word, but then the conversation got to be about, well, the street was charming, and my wife thought it was charming, and there was agreement about that. There is, and I take that to be something which I don't fully understand, which is something like, I think in that beat, Joe and Amber sort of colluded to avoid the interesting thing. And I think that's interesting. It's
yeah,
it,
that is really interesting.
it's like there's a danger in getting at what people are really like, something like that. And what's really going on with people, that's risky. And I think Amber was trying to get there, but in some way there's a reluctance to just go straight at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting thing in its own right. It's an interesting thing from the standpoint of DES as an exploratory method. Because I'm not being critical, particularly of Amber, because everybody who's in that situation does the same thing. Basically, she's got a sense of what's in the center of experience, and yet we veer off and we go that way and we go this other way.
Yeah.
And I think that's I don't know why that is. I'm pretty sure it is, but I don't know why it is.
Yeah. I was thinking that, I mean, because I remember you said as well at one point that, sometimes when people describe their experiences, they get sort of pigeonholed by they're thinking about the physics of the real world. And as you said,
Right.
like, perception doesn't operate using the physics of the real world. So when people describe it, they can sometimes mistakenly use the physics of the real world. But I wonder if, as you just said, like, I wonder if even during the experience itself, there was something about the word charming, but like, was there something about the physics of the real world trying to push me away from that, or as as well as in the description, it's a sort of human tendency just to try and make sense of something when actually we should be exploring that thing more and sort of put aside the physics of the real world, if that makes sense.
I do think that makes sense. I would see it if I had to explain what it is. It's that the actual experiential nub of Joe or whomever is very, very close to the sensuality core. And we have learned, maybe for good reason, to be skittish about going directly at that. We were shy about discovering what people are really down deep, or not. It's not really down deep. It's at the surface, but it's connected to what's down deep, and we're shy about going in that direction, and maybe for good reason.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. Gosh, yeah, I'll have to think about that and think of some questions to follow up on that with our next chat, because I feel like you're definitely hitting at the heart of something really quite profound there about human nature, and about experiential nature. I mean, maybe I don't know, but yeah, maybe it's something to do with how we've evolved, or our societies, or a bit of both, or I don't know. But that's That's a huge topic.
Yeah, I think it is a huge topic, but it plays out at the street level, I guess you would say, at the beep level.
Mm. Yeah.
And from my perspective, and I've tried to teach people how to do descriptive experience sampling, and I tell them it's easy. You just have to go at the experience. But I have trouble getting people to do that. It's like, and I've been doing it. Maybe it's because I've been doing it for 50 years, and I've sort of figured out how to do it, or maybe it's just my way. Maybe it's just my idiosyncratic nature of what experience is. It's not how to do it, but it is not. It's worse than it's just not easy. It is. There seems to be like a motivation to go away from it, and that's.
Yeah, that's really, the shyness is definitely, as you said, that's definitely like a big part of it and a really interesting part of it. Yeah, I'm going to think about that a lot, Russ. And I'm also going to think of some questions about, because I feel like that's something that will be really interesting to explore actually in the chapter, like as you said, like the shyness and why people on the street level day to day are reluctant to sort of explore that or to think about that. So yeah, it'd be great if we could chat about that more actually in the future.
Well, if we can figure it out, I'd be happy to chat about it. As I do think that you could say that the science of psychology or neuroscience or whatever is designed to avoid talking about what's really personal. Everything that organized psychology does is a way of avoiding finding out that Joe was thinking about the word.
Yeah, it's very true.
All kinds of major analytical methods and multi-million-dollar magnates or whatever, and they're all motivated because they would like to know what's going on with Joe, but they also are motivated by failing to ask him in a direct way what's going on with Joe.
Yeah, definitely.
So there is a
fundamental flaw.
Hugely fundamental, important conversation to be had about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
All right, we'll take one more step in that direction on the 12th.
Lovely. Thank you all so much again. And yeah, I'll see you in a week.
Thank you.
See you then, Joe. Thanks.
Bye.